Today we're taking a look at the LG Optimus Extreme. This is the latest in the Optimus line offered by Straight Talk. It retails for $149.99. It's an entry-level device, or entry-level spec device, I should say. Comes with 800 megahertz, 4-inch diagonal screen. Now, what's notable on this Extreme is the fact that it's the first Straight Talk to come with Android 4.0 out of the box, aka ice cream sandwich. And you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal? It kind of looks the same as the other phones, but I'll tell you that the performance on this phone, despite it being entry level, is considerably better than any other entry-level phone with the same processor speed that Straight Talk has offered to date. And there's some other differences between the interface, which I'll show you a couple a little bit later. Again, this is a 4-inch screen device, so it's a rather medium device. I like the size of it. It's not too small, not too big. It's not like one of those huge Androids that are out lately. So it's a nice size. You get a nice size screen in a relatively compact form factor. So here it is with the playing card. So as you can see, it's considerably taller than the playing card and a little bit wider. Measurements. It measures, again, the screen. Let's do that first. The screen, so you can take a look at the size, is 4-inch diagonal. Might be a tad under 4 inches, so about 3.94, 3.95. Width, it's 2.6, so a little bit more than 2.5, so 2.62. Height, it's almost 4 3/4, a little bit less than that, so 4.66 to be exact. And then finally the width, which is another difference over some of the other entry-level phones, is 0.39. So this is actually one of the thinner entry-level phones you'll find on Straight Talk. In fact, I think it's the thinnest one that I've come across so far, at least on the entry-level line. Now, on the layout and the looks of it, this is a very attractive phone, I think. You have your typical capacitive buttons that light up when you touch them at the bottom. This middle one here is physical push, as you can see, and it's got a nice little chrome look type trim to it. And then the other thing that I like about it is this kind of like a black chrome look to the bezel. It is plastic, but it does look metal, and that black chrome look makes this a more expensive looking phone than it really is. Now, everything else on the layout is pretty standard. Bottom, you got your standard micro USB charge port. On the left, you have your volume button. On the top, you have your 3.5 millimeter standard iPod size headphone jack. You got your lock and slash power button here to the right on the top. Now, there is no dedicated camera button, so if you're looking for that, you're not going to find it on this phone. Doesn't bother me any, but it might bother some people, so just keep that in mind. No dedicated camera button. On the back, you'll find a 5 megapixel camera, and this one does have a LED flash to it. The back is plastic, of course, and it's got a nice textured, a heavily textured feel to it. So overall, despite it being entry level and all plastic construction, this is a very nice looking phone. It looks a lot more expensive than it really is. And if you're shopping for an entry level device, you'll find that there are two other phones that look very similar to this. They are the Dynamic and the Logic. Both are Optimus models. And I have one here so you can take a look at the difference. And right away you notice the size difference. The other two Optimus phones, the Dynamic and the Logic, which is this one, they're a 3-inch screen device. So you can see the screen is considerably smaller. They're also not as attractive. This one's kind of a charcoal finish to it, so it's not as high-end looking as this phone. The layout is exactly the same on on all three phones, the Dynamic, the Logic, and the Extreme. But this phone just looks a lot nicer. Now, of course, there is a price difference. The Dynamic and the Extreme are not. I'm sorry, the Dynamic and the Logic. These phones, they're 79 and 89. This one's 149. But you do get a lot more than you do here for the money. And then finally, you'll notice that the Extreme is a lot thinner than this one here. So overall, if you're comparing these two, they really don't compare, other than the fact that they're square. Yes, they're both entry-level 800 megahertz devices, but this one looks a lot nicer and performs a whole lot nicer. So and I'll show you some of the 4.0 neat little things about 4.0 that I noticed right away. So first, on the Extreme, you'll notice how the icons kind of scroll sort of like on a Mac. If you've ever played around with a Mac, they have that nice scrolling action. Where on here, you have your typical, sliding type action. The other neat little feature that I found on 4.0 is this zoom feature. So on 4.0 you get this this tab here which slides up and down, and you tap this icon and the phone zooms just by rocking it back and forth up and down. So I found that to be pretty neat. This one doesn't have it. It has your standard zoom feature. So other things on 4.0 that I've found, the camera has a whole lot extras to it. For example, I think over the 2.3 you get some extra little features here. I think 2.3 has geotagging, I'm not sure, but on 4.0 you have geotagging. And it's supposed to have some cool little image editing effects on it. Other than that, the camera interface is the same on both, but on 4.0 you're supposed to get some extra little features which I haven't played around with, so I won't show them to you. The biggest difference that I found on this phone on 4.0 is despite the fact that this phone is only at 800 megahertz device, I found that Netflix finally plays the way it's supposed to. So if you've watched any videos, I've shown it on a couple of my other videos on the other entry-level straight talk phones that are also 800 megahertz. Netflix doesn't play worth a damn. Like if you try to play it, it's kind of got like a herky-jerky motion, and the video and the audio get out of sync as soon as you start playing. Whereas on 4.0, it plays perfectly fine. You don't have that herky-jerky motion, and the video and the audio don't get out of sync. Now you won't be able to see it on this video, and by video I don't mean the phone video, I mean the video that I'm making. Might be hard to tell, but that brings me to really the only thing I don't like about this phone, and that's the audio quality. When you play something on speaker, it's just not very loud, so you'll definitely need some headphones on this phone, because the audio just is not very loud. But overall, this is an excellent little phone. There's nothing about it I don't like other than that audio quality that I mentioned. It does everything I've asked it to nicely. I like the 4.0 Android. It does a whole lot more than the previous 2.3 version. Despite the fact that this is entry level, it feels more like a mid-level device um, uh, than an entry-level device with 4.0. So if you're shopping for a phone and you don't want to spend 200-300 bucks, then this I would say is the best entry-level phone offered by Straight Talk to date. It does go for $149, so it's not too expensive, and it does really do a whole lot more than all the other uh, entry-level Straight Talk phones. Now specs, again, I'll go over those real quick. 800 megahertz, 1 gig of internal memory. It does include a 4 gig card, 5 megapixel camera, and Android 4.0. So if you're looking at this phone and you're thinking about it, I'll definitely recommend that you pull the trigger on it, because I'd say it's well worth the money, despite it being an entry-level device.